Hi guys, this should be a quick video here. We're going into the animal characteristics. The reason why we're kind of going into a little more depth here is that all the animals from here on that we cover or be in the animal kingdom. And if you remember those 8 characteristics that all animals share, there are a few of those we're going to go into a little more detail. And then as we go into each phylum, you can kind of see how they build upon each other in complexity of how they move and these other characteristics. So I have a little bit of a head cold going with some major sinus stuff, so that's what's happening here and why I sound a little funny, but hang in there with me. So how animals get their food, they are some are filter feeders, which filter small organisms out of the water or air. And so they just go through and as the water or the air goes through them, their body somehow takes in the little teeny particles. And in the water, a lot of times it's the zooplankton, so little microscopic organisms that you can't even see. And that's how they get their food. There's also parasites. Parasites live in or on a host and consumes part of an organism. Sounds like a herd of elephants. Sorry. I don't know who's running around the school, but it's a herd of elephants. Parasites live in or on and host consumes parts of the organism. So here's some worms here and a leech, right, and ticks. So there's a few different kinds. A symbiosis relationship is where only one benefits. So they're just mooching off of the organism that they're eating off of. And they don't even need to have really good digestive systems because the digestion is already being done by the organism who they're sucking the nutrients from. So there's endoparasites, which live inside a host, and then there's exoparasites that live outside of a host. Along the lines of food, herbivores only eat plants and have long digestive systems with large flat teeth usually to crunch up the leaves and stuff. Then we have predators, which capture and eat other animals. So the predator is the animal that goes after the prey. The prey is what gets hunted and eaten. The predator does that. And then usually the predators too, they are carnivores where they will have sharper teeth to kind of rip through the flesh. We have detritivores and scavengers, and they feed on dead plants and animals. So after an organism has already gone through and taken what they want and kind of leave the gunk behind, these detritivores and scavengers will go in and feed off of that. As far as movement goes, there are 3 types of movement. We have sessile movement, which means they're usually attached to something and have little to no movement. So a sponge or a sea anemone. And once they're attached, they usually stay in that place for most of their life. Okay. Then there's sedentary, which moves very slowly or very little. This would be like the starfish or the jellyfish. And in normal motion, they're really slow, but they can get around and move places if they need to. And then there's motile. So motile can move quickly and freely. That'd be fish, dogs, lobster, humans, most of the animals you think of at the zoo or the farm, right? So motile, moving quickly. There is a special way of movement with tube feet, and tube feet can help an organism to move slowly using suction cups. And the bottom of starfish have thousands of these little tube feet, and that's how they move around. So I will put back on the front page the videos for you to go back and watch for these different things that I've got throughout the presentation today. So tube feet, the starfish with suction cups. Then there's specialized limbs that allows for controlled and rapid movements like fins and tentacles. Okay, so they can help them to get around quickly and to turn and move in specific directions. Then we have jointed limbs, which allow for the most range of motion, give speed and agility. So jointed limbs, here humans have jointed limbs also, right? So it's just an easier way to move quickly. Sexual reproduction. So there are two types of reproduction, sexual and asexual. Sexual reproduction, where a sperm fertilizes an egg and produces offspring that are genetically different than their parent. They're similar, but still different. So you can see, like even the animals here, the spots are a little different, and they won't be exactly identical. Same thing then with humans, right? You probably look like your parents, but obviously not identical. And so definitely be sure to watch the sexual reproduction video that I put on for this. It talks about the advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction, and you definitely need to know the advantages of that, okay? Asexual reproduction is the creation of offspring by one parent only. So it creates offspring that is genetically identical to the parent. And so here is binary fission, two just split completely into two. You have budding that comes off the side, and then fragmentation. So each one of these we'll look at. Real quick on a side note, when it comes to the reproduction, so there's monoecious and dioecious. And the word monoecious means you have both sexes in one animal. So one animal can produce both the sperm and the egg. Jellyfish, earthworms, slugs are some examples. Whereas dioecious, you have two separate. So you have males and then females. Okay, and that would be humans, dogs, and chickens as an example there. So just remember, mono is one with both, and dio is two different animals, one sex in both of those different. Okay, fission is when the parent splits into two parts and creates offspring. So it just complete a split. One cell splits into two identical. Regeneration is regrowing parts that get cut off. So go back and watch too when I showed there's a newt video where the arm gets off, and it kind of explains how that that arm or leg or whatever is cut off regenerates and is done by stem cells. It's pretty cool how amazing it would be to be able to do that with humans. So cool if we could figure out the way that works. Starfish also is regeneration. So when you break off a starfish, as long as you have a little piece of the central disc, the rest of that will grow back in. So it has to have, a certain amount of that central disc in order to have those stem cells to grow back, those arms that were torn off. Then there's budding. And so when a new offspring grows off the side of the parent, asexual budding. And so here you can see a little tiny bud, and then it grows the things at the top, and then it pinches off, and then here we go. We have a new one that looks like that is identical to the mom, just off to the side. Okay. Reproduction also is parthenogenesis. And this is when a female produces eggs that do not need to be fertilized by a male to develop into offspring. So it's pretty amazing how there are some species that just consist of all females. And it's called parthenogenesis when a female produces those eggs. Also for asexual reproduction, the word hermaphrodite should be something you remember. It's an organism that can produce both sperm and eggs. So hermaphrodites are monoecious. Okay. And then as we go into the different species and the phylums and stuff, we'll talk about certain species that maybe have this feature. And sometimes they have both. Pretty interesting. Symmetry. So symmetry is how a body, the body parts are made up and how they keep growing upon each other. The first one we're talking about is asymmetrical, which means there's no real symmetry to it. So that would be this up here. So corals or sponges, they kind of just grow and don't have a real true form to them, okay? Just completely all over the place, asymmetrical. Then we have what's called spherical, where body parts are arranged around a center sphere. So if you think of a sphere as a ball, and you have the center ball, and then things start to grow around it from all different sides. An example, remember these examples. Asymmetrical would be sponges, spherical or protozoans and bacteria. The radial would be body parts radiate from a center point. So if you see here, we have a center point, and then it starts to all grow out, but it's like a flat sphere, right? So radiates like this, more like a frisbee, okay? Whereas the spherical would be more like a ball. So this radial would be starfish, sea anemones, jellyfish. Okay. Then we have bilateral symmetry where the two sides are like mirror images. That would be butterfly or human or an insect. So somewhere if you were to cut that along one plane, a certain plane, you could get two mirrored images off to the sides. Now we know, like humans, for example, if we cut down our face is not completely symmetrical, right? I mean, we've got different things, and it's pretty interesting if you were to do that and to mirror your one side to the other, you really wouldn't even look like you. But the idea is that you have an eye on each side, your ear on each side, two arms on each, one arm on each side, right? So that's what it means by mirrored images, not exact. Okay, this next little bit is really important too. So again, I can't stress enough to go back and watch these videos, okay? So, and for this one, I'll tell you again, but just start it in at 45 seconds and end it at 7 minutes and 30 seconds or so. I just don't like a lot of the stuff that he says before and at the end. So, germ layers are really important because those germ layers depend, the systems of your body and the organs depend on the germ layer. And so, you'll see here, so layers of cells that form during animal development. An endoderm is the inner forming lining, and that forms the digestive and your respiratory tracts. Then you have mesoderm, which will form the middle layers, the muscular, circulatory, reproductive, and excretory systems. And then ectoderm or exoderm, with the outer forms the sensory organs, nerves, and the outer layers of the skin. So this is really important to know that these different layers can hold the different types of systems. So our very primitive animals might just have no true germ layers actually when we get to the sponge. And then you'll see as we add on, we might have one germ layer and then two germ layers, and then we get to the 3 germ layers of the more complex ones, okay? So important to remember. Also, the body cavity of each is important to remember. So a body cavity is called a coelom, and an acoelomate, if you remember from our vocab verbs, a means without or not. So no coelom, no true body cavity. Organs are free floating around in fluid, okay? So you have one gut here and then all this just free floating stuff. Then we have what's called a pseudocoelomate. Pseudo means false. So a false body cavity enclosed in a muscle layer. So there's a little bit more there and it makes it seem like it could be a true layer, but it's really not, okay? So you still have the digestive tract from the endoderm, and then a pretend kind of coelom with a thin muscle layer to help protect a little bit, and then the body covering, okay? Pseudocoelomate. And then a true coelom has a true body cavity in here with tissue layers lining your coelom and keeping all those organs in place and protected. And so it's a true body cavity with many layers to protect those organs. So you can see as the coelom gets more complex, the organ systems within that, in the true coelom, can be more specific and have more protection. Okay, so here's just a quick picture of the acoelomate, coelomate, and then a pseudocoelomate here in the middle, and then a true coelomate on the side of how they are set up with real coelom here with things, a place for all those organs to go and to be protected. Okay, that's it for these notes. So go back and watch those videos on these. Again, I can't stress the importance of those videos. So go back, and it's kind of the fun stuff of it too. So bring in the animals to you. So contact me if you've got any questions. Don't forget to sign off your Google form to check in for the week, and email me anytime. I'm here. I can do a one-on-one Google Meet if you need to. Zoology Google Meets Mondays at 1 o'clock. Hope to see you there. We'll answer any questions. You can show me any work there. If you don't want to take pictures and send it back in, you can just show it to me over the camera screen, and we'll get those points in for you. Okay, keep up with us. We're moving on to Periphery, and then after Periphery, we're testing. So we have like a week, maybe a week and a half before we're testing on this stuff. So hopefully you guys are catching up, staying caught up with us. Love you. Be good, be safe, be healthy. Bye.